We all understand the type of climate that we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple offer situations.
I'd love to know sort of what's your why? What makes you tick? Why are you so successful?
Have a dialogue with your lawyer. Have a dialogue with your agent.
Both sort of passionate about sort of what we do.
Again, vet your agent to make sure that they're experienced and they're local. I like that idea.
No excuse to miss it on Saturdays from 8 to 9.
That's right.
WBZ.
And now, the show that gives you the latest and most relevant housing market news. Real Estate Radio Boston with financial expert Rick Scherer and legal professional Ali Alavi.
How are you?
Very good. How are you guys?
Excellent, thanks. Excited to have you on. Craig, who are you with?
I am with Century 21 Commonwealth.
Wonderful.
And let's talk a little bit about the southern New Hampshire market. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of people from Massachusetts who work in Massachusetts go across the border? What are you seeing there?
Absolutely. There's actually a significant number of residents who live in southern New Hampshire but work in Massachusetts. I think the reason for that is your dollar stretches a little bit further, and you can afford a little bit more home for your money in New Hampshire.
Now, southern New Hampshire, that really, where are we talking about? What towns are we talking about?
So, especially right along the border, from Nashua, Hudson, Wyndham, Salem area.
Okay.
It's very convenient, obviously, from those towns to live there, but still get into the city.
Who's your ultimate client? Who would benefit the most? What sort of commercial owner would benefit the most from a solar program like you have?
Well, our target clientele are, we say, commercial building owners, but there's really three categories. You have for-profit businesses, real estate holding companies, kind of things like that. We have the institutional owners, colleges, universities, hospitals, and then you have other nonprofits, maybe like YMCAs or municipal entities. So any of these facilities owners are qualified clientele for us, and there's different ways of financing and taking advantage of the tax credits regardless of the tax appetite of the actual owner, and we can go into that.
Now, we're talking about individuals that own buildings and the fact that these solar systems are being placed on the roof, correct?
That's correct, but we don't have to talk about just limiting them to the roof. We can do systems that would be placed on the ground, called a ground mount system if there's backyard or underused space around the property. We can also do systems that are mounted on carports in a parking lot. You have to have a good-sized parking facility to do it.
Right in Framingham, the REI they have the whole solar thing over the parking.
Absolutely.
And it shades people from their car, but it captures all that solar.
Yeah, there's a number of amenities obviously associated with that beyond the electricity it's producing.
Are there limitations to the roof size that I have to be concerned with as a commercial building owner? Under what circumstances do I come to you and say, hey, is doing a solar on my roof feasible?
Yeah, well, you've got to have a certain size roof to make it economically viable, quite frankly. Typically what we found is our sweet spot is to work with folks that have a building that might have a 20,000 square foot roof or larger. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is that typically we're going to lose about half of that roof space for solar because of HVAC and access paths and setbacks from the edge and other kinds of things. So if we have a 20,000 square foot roof, we might have 10,000 square feet of usable solar space.
Now, given the fact that winter is around the corner, what do you think? What would you suggest a homeowner do to sort of prepare their house for these upcoming
so that they don't
months?
have insurance claims and they don't have to deal with things like
This
that?
is completely counterproductive.
No, but you're a good
absolutely.
guy and you
I'm
care
just
about the
kidding.
consumer. So that's
of course. Now there's obvious things that everybody knows about. You want to make sure you clean out your gutters or make sure that they're cleaned. Because they'll back up, you'll have flows that can come back into the house. That's also contributory to ice dams. It's going to help, especially if the gutters are already backed up. You're not helping the situation any.
Right.
Windows and doors. If you think you have a draft, or if you want to check the weather stripping to see if it's worn out, you want to prevent those kinds of things. Other things would be behind the outlets in the wall. Sometimes you get a little air coming through there. They sell a little rubber gasket or a little foam gasket rather that goes in behind the outlet cover that you screw in that'll help stop the airflow. Little things like that.
Right.
But the things like with fires or insurance claims, obviously space heaters and things along that nature. They have more safe units out there now versus the old traditional one. When it tips over, it sets fire to your house. You change those out. But
when does if someone has it from X amount of years, they should probably think about maybe reinvesting in another one. I mean, probably
like with everything, the technology changes. So if you've got a heater that's over 4 years old, you want to. I mean, they're not super expensive, and considering the trade-off, you know, the inconvenience of being displaced while we put your house back together, it's worth the money. But things like you'll get drafts. Cold air will come down from your fireplace. They have inflatable balloons that you can tuck up inside that keeps the air out. Naturally, you have to remember to take the balloon out if you light a fire. But you know, there's also big foam blocks you can put in there as well. There's a lot of common sense involved with things like that.
Right.
Pipe bursts are probably the biggest thing that happens.
Gotcha. How do you prevent that?
Well, there's different things. Outdoor spigots. There's a turnoff inside the house. You want to shut the water off on the inside of the house, then go open the spigot up.
And flush it out,
so there's not full of water, and then they won't pop.
But they also have spigots that are sort of prevents freezing, right?
Yeah, and they have covers that you can put on them to insulate them. There's if you have an area in your house that's where you have like a crawl space and there's pipes that are exposed, you want to make sure those pipes are insulated, or maybe even have a heat tape attached to them that you can plug in when it's really cold to keep the pipes warm.
Gotcha.
Things along that nature. And the biggest thing is when people go away.
Gotcha.
Do not turn your heat down to 50 degrees because you're trying to save 3 cents.
What would be the standard temperature that I should keep my home while I'm away?
Leave your house at 65. I mean, people say, "Oh, I live in 65." Okay, go to 60, but don't go to 50.
Right.
It's because think about it. It gets 20 below with the wind chill for 4 or 5 days while you're on vacation. Your house is going to pop.
So I have had my license for over 20 years, and I've been practicing for about 9 years now.
Wow.
My main focus is in Milton, also the South End. And Milton, of course, I've been living there for 40 years, actually over 40 years.
Wow. Yeah,
so,
I mean, you're the Milton girl.
I am. I know it inside and out.
Born and raised.
Yes, absolutely.
You know all the pockets in Milton.
Absolutely, and I've seen some, obviously, enormous change within the town itself. A lot of growth, a lot of diversity. The school systems have all been upgraded, renovated. A lot of young families moving in because of this. The proximity to Boston is really
it's a
great.
huge hot market right now.
It really is.
If people want to sort of live and have neighbors and grass and all that sort of thing, but be 10 minutes into the city, it's a really great place to be.
Hey, I lived in Milton, and
That's
I can tell you firsthand how incredibly convenient it is. You don't have to necessarily take the expressway to get into the city. I mean, if you know your ways, you can take the back roads and be in the city in 15 minutes.
Right.
So absolutely, and I mean they've pumped a ton of money to be able to revamp the school system.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So obviously there's a lot of good stuff happening in Milton. There's great proximity to the city. How's the market today?
So the market is still very, very active, and the listings come on. Obviously, if they're priced right, they're going to fly out the door. Obviously, seeing multiple offers as well.
Sure. How are you finding the inventory? Are you finding the inventory sort of limited, or are you seeing a bit of a surge in inventory? What's your feeling there?
Okay, so obviously, as all summer, July, August are usually very slow months. So the inventory really starts to pick up after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. So there was a real influx of inventory starting September, right after Labor Day. So, and the sweet spot for Milton, the price range is really between $450 to about $650.
Yeah.
So that's the real bread and butter of our market.
Oh, gotcha.